Racial justice are key issues LGBTQ plus women face in their communities, according to a new poll by NPR, the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, and the Harvard T.H. School of Public Health. LGBTQ plus people of color are more than twice as likely as their white counterparts to say they've been discriminated against because they are LGBTQ plus in applying for jobs and interacting with police. Isaiah Wilson, the coalition's director of external affairs, says LGBTQ plus people of color are, quote, the most impacted communities, end quote, when it comes to discrimination. For women and trans women of color, it gets even worse. For, quote, trans military service, access to healthcare, or if you look at employment, end quote, according to Catalyst, trans women and queer women were also more likely than cisgender women to say they'd experienced racism. And women with darker skin tones were far more likely to say they'd experienced racism at work. My response to reading this story was, duh. Like, we live in a white supremacist world, and that does not go away just because you're gay.
Right.
And I even would argue and say that before people even know I'm gay, they see I'm black.
Wow.
They see that I'm a woman.
Very true.
Like, there's two things that people will know about me immediately or assume about me immediately before they even ever know that I'm gay. So when we talk about pay equity and Women's History Month and things like that, like Pay Equity Day is earlier in March, where it's 71 cents to a man's dollar, but that looks very different for Black women, for Latinas, for Indigenous women, you know, for Asian women, that looks very, very different. A few years ago, Black women in Miami were making, I think it was 58 cents to a white woman's dollar.
Wow. What the hell?
So when you compare it like that,
oh my God,
compare it in those ways,
yes.
It's like, you know, part of the battle is not just against men, it's also, again, at the intersections of all these different things. How are we carrying this work and sharing the load of freedom and liberation for all of us? So Marley, I'd be interested in what you have to say.
Well, you know why I do what I do. I create spaces for queer women of color. There are little to none. I'm not even from here, I'm from New Jersey, and I've lived here for nearly 20 years, and I couldn't tell you where to go. People will ask me, oh, I'm in Miami, because they expect Miami to be this all-inclusive place for, you know, everyone, or South Florida to be this all-inclusive place, but there's little to nowhere for us. And it's important to even, my voice is doing these events. My voice is bringing these people together, and for all of us to coexist in a peaceful space, fun, joyful, to show people that we deserve to exist just as much as the next person. And I couldn't imagine a better space for me to be in right now than doing this, you know? So I gotta keep going,
and that is
even against it all.
Yes, no, that you have to keep on fighting, my fellow Jersey girl. You know, and I'm curious. I want to ask Janelle about this because, you know, me and Jasmine have had lots of conversations about this. You know, the reality is that if I don't open my mouth, you don't know I'm Latina. Okay, I have dark hair and green eyes. So you will not know, and I will be treated differently than Jasmine would just because of not talking and you not knowing that I'm Latina. You know, these are things that even in the Latin culture, we really don't focus on, you know, because that's racial injustice to the T within our own community, you know. Even in the Latin community, you know, I doubt you'd be surprised, Jasmine, but you know, when it's I have darker cousins, right? And it's ay, tú tienes el pelo malo, right? Those are the girls with bad hair, right? Because they're darker, you know? And even in our own Latino communities, the lighter skinned girls are treated different than the darker skinned girls, you know?
It's really funny, actually. My wife and I travel a lot to the Dominican Republic, and more often than not, my wife is super white with freckles. They always usually think I'm the nanny.
Oh my God.
And it's wild. Even here, we live in Pinecrest. Even here, I often get asked when I take my girls to the park, are you their nanny? And I'm like, no, I'm their mom. But it is wild. And as you were reading the story, I was thinking too, how much of us were in the closet when we were working. I remember professionally, I never came out to my employers. It was something that I was always really afraid of. And that's, I mean, I worked for
a member of Congress that was from Miami, so being Hispanic was okay.
Mm-hmm.
I know that being Cuban American in Miami, there's a level of privilege that comes with that.
Yeah.
But being LGBTQ and being openly gay at work was definitely not something I ever imagined I would do.
Especially in the political world.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. In the political world, it was.
That's a boys' club to the fullest.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And when you're a lesbian, there's even those jokes, you know?
Right.
So.
Well, and I think that's also interesting, the conversation about Latinidad, because we talked the other day about, you know, I've had conversations with people where I'm like, your flyer is very white for your event. And they're like, actually, no, that person's Latin. And I'm like,
okay, but she's white presenting. Same thing.
It's this conversation that's like, diversity is about skin color also. Diversity is about body type. Diversity is about where you come from. It's about hair, all of those different things. So even if you have a flyer that is full of Cuban women, if they all look white, we have to have a different conversation.
Completely. Understand. Look at me, okay? I'm 11% Nigerian. Okay, does that even, nobody, okay? It doesn't translate, but it's my truth and it's my truth, okay? But without me telling you that, you wouldn't know. Right. So I'd like to see, you know, we'd like to see the representation of everyone at this panel on a flyer to know that I'm allowed, I want to be there because I'm on that flyer, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly.
LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Lara are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out television network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ plus community.